Hi, everyone. Welcome to How to Save for College. My name is Reagan Anson, and I'm with Education Quest. And it's my pleasure tonight to be joined by Donna Crownover, who is Vice President of Relationship Management at Union Bank and Trust here in Lincoln. Donna, thank you so much for being here with us tonight to share your expertise.
My pleasure, Reagan. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So for our audience, we are going to give away another awesome mug or your choice of water bottle tonight during our broadcast. We're going to be putting a link in the comments right now. So all you have to do is click to register and we'll announce the winner at the end of our presentation. So be sure you stay tuned till the end. Also, as we go, be sure to post any questions that you come up with in the comments. Don't wait until the end. You might forget, and we don't want that to happen. So go ahead and post those and we'll get to those very soon. But Donna, let's dig into some content here because I know people want to know how to save for college. So one of the questions, people might ask themselves is why save for college at all? What are some of the best ways to save for college? Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. And part of this, I'm not going to tell you anything that's going to surprise you. The cost of college is going up. And for those of you that are listening, that's why you're listening. You know that. You also know, though, that the importance of that college education continues to increase. Department of Education, Department of Labor puts out information every year on the earning potential for those with post-secondary degrees of any kind. So, the importance of college continues to rise. The cost of college continues to rise. So we step back and take a look at how can we be prepared for that. And as you mentioned, there's lots of savings vehicles out there to save for college. You hear a lot about different ways, and everyone uses everything from a traditional savings account, investments of various kinds. 529 plans have become very popular as a savings vehicle, just because of some of the different benefits that are offered by the plans that you might not see with some of your traditional savings vehicles.
Sure. College continues to be a great investment. We tell people that all the time. It's an investment that is so worth your time and worth the money. So when you give advice to parents, when do you tell them is the best time to start saving for their child's education? My guess is from the day they're born, but not everybody's probably going to do that. So can you speak to that a little bit, Donna?
Sure, absolutely. There's no bad time to start saving. Obviously, with anything, the sooner you start saving, the more time you have to be setting money aside. New parents have a lot on their plates. It can be overwhelming thinking of all the things involved. So that may be further down the list of things to do. But again, there's never a bad time to start saving. You're going to get potential growth benefits through the life of the account. Some nice tax benefits along the way, including potential tax deduction on contributions and things like that. So the longer you have, that time horizon. The other thing that I'll mention too, when you think about young families and you think about young kiddos, and we talk about the importance of savings, there's various studies out there that talk about, those kids that know there's money set aside for college are more likely to succeed. And so start saving and talk to your kids about the savings that you're doing. Involve them in this process, from a young age. It's a great learning experience for all of you.
Absolutely. I have a friend that started a savings plan for her child when he was born, actually. But she said the best advice she could give other parents is treat it as just another monthly bill, and it just auto goes into your account. And she's like, I treated it like another car payment. And I'm like, that's genius. So yeah, great advice. So we also know that most parents or a lot of parents might still be paying off their own student loans and trying to save for that retirement, right? So that makes things tight. What advice would you give them, if any, about saving for their college, given those factors?
Sure. Yeah. Taking care of your own debt, your own student loans, saving for retirement are definitely priority one. Those are things that you need to square away and have taken care of. And everyone's situation is different, but you bring up a great point, Reagan. Treat it like you would setting money aside for anything else. There's no minimum contribution limits, for example, with the Nest College Savings Plan. So you can be contributing a little here and there. Set aside X amount each month to come out of your checking account, for example. Or we talk to people too about getting creative with your ways to save. So as your children are getting older, maybe when you're sending them off to school, you don't have the daycare expenses you had before, for example. So redirect those dollars. Or if you've paid off, say, a car loan, redirecting those dollars so you're in that habit of setting the money aside. It truly can be kind of a set it and forget it situation for you. So, but again, every situation is different. Take care of yourselves, take care of that, your loans, your debt you have. Saving for retirement, absolutely important. But if you can get into that habit of setting money aside when you can.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about the Nest 529 plan. That's your area of expertise. What is it? Can you give us an overview? And then why is it called 529? Seems like a weird name, random set of numbers. Can you talk to that?
Absolutely. So I've worked with 529s for a long time. So my mind instantly goes that direction when you start talking college. But it's for several reasons. The 529 plans are a tax advantage way to save for future college expenses. So the Nest 529 plan is called 529s simply because it's named for the section of the IRS code. So there's section 529. So with the Nest 529 plan, it is a tax advantage plan that's sponsored by the state of Nebraska. So you have benefits for setting money aside for those future college expenses. I briefly mentioned, I'm not here to give you tax advice, but just to kind of give you an overview of that, some tax benefits on the money going in, which can include a tax deduction for Nebraska residents. So if you're an account owner and you're setting money aside, you can be eligible each year up to $10,000 or $5,000 if you're married filing separately as a tax deduction. While the accounts are growing, any growth in the account is going to be tax deferred. So you're not paying taxes on the life of the account. And then when the money comes out, for qualified college expenses, and there's a definition of what is considered a qualified college expense. Can be very flexible there, but the potential for tax-free withdrawals. So you're seeing tax benefits throughout the life of the account. In addition to the tax benefits, there's a lot of flexibility. I mentioned there's no minimum contribution requirements. Kiddos can go to school in the state of Nebraska, outside the state. It can be a 2-year, 4-year, public, private, vocational schools. There's a lot of flexibility on where the money can be used. So when you're a young parent, you're not sure what the future brings. It's nice to know that you have some flexibility when you're setting that money aside.
Absolutely. And who doesn't want to pay less taxes? I know I do. Can you talk a little bit about I think when people think of savings accounts, they think of like a bank savings account, a traditional savings account. How does that compare to a Nest 529? I assume there's some maybe interest or investment differences. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So in addition to the tax benefits that I mentioned, there are various investment options that are available, and it's another flexible feature with the plan. So when you look at the Nest plan, and we've got a whole host of information on our website at thenest529.com, but we have various investment options to choose from, because as you mentioned, that's going to be a little bit different than your traditional savings account. But every investor is a little bit different. And so we have everything from what we refer to as our age-based portfolios, which is kind of a set it and forget it option, where folks can invest the money, and as that child gets closer to college age, the investments automatically become more conservative. We have our static options, which again, a lot of variety from some great fund families, but they're not going to be tied to the age of the child, because you may be a very conservative investor or very aggressive and don't want to tie it to the age of the child you're saving for. And then for those folks that want to build their own type of portfolio, we do have some individual fund portfolios that they can basically pick and choose from the funds. So We work with some wonderful fun families, some well-respected. So there's a lot of great information out there and a lot of flexibility on what you can invest in.
That's great. So you touched on this a little bit earlier, but wanted to ask specifically, there's no minimum amount that would have to be contributed every time that someone wanted to add, but also can other people contribute to your 529? I'm thinking grandparents for birthdays, maybe an aunt and uncle, that sort of thing.
Oh, great. That's a great question. Yes. Get everyone involved. Hey, that's another way to save creatively. No, Johnny doesn't need another stuffed animal, but you can help set money aside for college costs. Absolutely. So there's a couple different options. First of all, if you have parents or grandparents, aunts, uncles, family, friends, anyone that wants to add, maybe at holiday times, it's graduation time, those milestones that happen, birthdays, etc. We do have what we call our gift ed program, and that's where you as an account owner could actually invite people to contribute to the account. And again, it can be based on those milestones that are happening in the child's life. The other option is one child can have multiple accounts. So if you as a parent have an account set up, but maybe grandparents will say, hey, we'd really like to be actively setting money aside. They can open an account for that same child as well. So there's flexibility there, but it's always great to encourage others to help with that journey.
So many options. I know when you start talking about investments, right? Like that can be really intimidating for people. You touched on some of the different investment options that are available to families. How does a family know really which one to pick? Do you offer that advice, or how would you suggest that they go about when they're ready to select a way to invest if they open that account?
Sure. Yeah, it can be overwhelming. If you're not quite sure how you want to invest or you're not familiar with the investment options. So a couple different things that are available. Also on our website, we have a risk tolerance tool, which is beneficial if people just want to take a look and say, I'm not quite sure how this fits into my investment style. And you can go through a variety of simple questions, and it can give you some insights, maybe is the best term for it, on investment options. The other thing is, if you have a financial professional that you work with, definitely reach out to them. They're available to not only give you, they're licensed to give you financial advice, but they're going to know about your other options that you're saving in too. So they may know what you save for retirement or your other personal investments. So they've got that whole picture that they could give you investment advice specific to your college savings. But yeah, take a look at it. Like I said, sometimes too many options is too many options, but take a look at what we have on both on our site as far as detailed information. Like I said, if you have an investment professional, visit with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what happens? I create a 529 account, have all this money in there, and my child decides not to go to college. What happens to that money? How does that work?
Probably the most frequently asked of the frequently asked questions, because we want you to start saving when they're young. So how do you know what the future holds? So there's several different options available. So as an account owner, and I'll back up just one step, make sure the terminology is jiving with everyone. An account owner is the person that opens the account. They're the ones that control the account. Beneficiary is that future student, so the child that you're saving for. And there's no age restriction, so I shouldn't really say child. It's a future student. I could be a beneficiary. Anyone can be a beneficiary. But the point I want to make is that the account owner is the one that controls the account. So when we talk about your options, they're the ones that can choose what path to go down. So if you have a beneficiary that is not going to go to college, or maybe they go to college and there's money left in the account, you can change that beneficiary to another member of the family. So maybe there's a sibling or a cousin, could be the parent going back to school. There's some flexibility there on who can be changed, who the account can be changed to. So a member of the beneficiary's family. You do have the option to, maybe just wait it out. Maybe they don't know what they're going to do with the future. Or again, maybe they finish school, there's money left, but maybe they're going on for an advanced degree or there's options. Because there's no contribution requirements or age restrictions, you don't have to make that decision right away, what you want to do with the account.
Yeah.
The other option is, as an account owner, you could choose to take the money back out. You could say, I don't have anyone else in the family. I don't want to wait it out. I want to just close the account. Now, there are tax consequences if the money's not used for college. So, check with a tax professional, but do know that there's the potential for the earnings being taxed, as well as a penalty if the money's not used for college. But again, 3 great options and no time frame in which you would have to make that decision.
That's great. That's reassuring, I would say. So how does someone go about withdrawing money from the account? You spoke to this a little bit. So say I have a child who's 18 going to college this fall. How does that work? Is that money taxed? And what expenses are eligible? You touched on that a little bit earlier as well.
So again, only the account owner can request a distribution. So the beneficiary is not going to be able to go into the account or to call us up and ask for it. We do need the account owner's approval. So let's say that this is your first year and you're getting ready to send them off to college for the first time, and you get that tuition bill from the school. And you know that things like tuition and fees, your room and board, if they're half-time status, room and board is considered a qualified expense. Various things like books and supplies, equipment that's required, it could be computer software, again, required for enrollment at that institution is going to be key. And it needs to be a qualified higher education institution in order to be the tax-free withdrawals. But let's say that you get that bill and you just say, you know what, I want a check sent directly to the school. So you can log into your account. So you have online access. You can request a check be sent directly to the school. Or maybe you've paid an expense and you want to be reimbursed. You can request a check come to you as an account owner. Or if you have a bank account on file, maybe you've been contributing monthly, and so your bank information is on file. You can have the distribution sent directly to your bank account. Or let's say that your son just went to the bookstore and bought some books and you want to reimburse your beneficiary. You can request a check be sent to the beneficiary. So there's a lot of flexibility on who the funds can be sent to. Again, it can be the owner, it can be the school, it can be the beneficiary. The biggest thing that I recommend is plan ahead. Especially if we're sending a check, you're going to want to allow for mail time. And if we're sending it to the school, this can vary from school to school, but make sure that they have time to process that check before that deadline approaches.
Oh, great advice. So your insight has been incredible. So thank you for that. We're going to move on to take a few questions from our audience, if you're open to that. But before we do that, I just want to remind people about the nest529.com website. We're putting a link in the comments right now. Go there. I'm sure there's all kinds of resources that are going to be so helpful to you and answer a lot of questions. But I also, before we move on to our audience questions, I want to remind everyone of the free resources we also have at educationquest.org. So there you can find a variety of information about how best to pay for college, and we'll put a link to our website in the chat now as well. And there's also an incredible resource on our site called Scholarship Quest. And if you want some free money, then you don't have to worry about investing or taxes. That's a great place to go. We have over 2,000 Nebraska-based scholarships in Scholarship Quest that you can search and see what type of awards you can apply for, what you might qualify for, and it is free. So be sure to check it out, tell your friends. But now let's get to a couple of audience questions if you're up for that, Donna. Our first question is, when is too late to start a 529? We have a first-year college student and a junior in high school.
Never too late. So if you have one heading off to school now, you can still be setting money aside while they're in school. I'll use myself as an example. My youngest just finished his freshman year of college, and I've been saving money into his 529. I will continue. I did this with my older child, to continue to put money in even as I'm using it for expenses. Some people will say too, I'm going to use other savings, or I have other means to pay for the first couple of years of college. So I'm going to wait and I'm going to use the $529 later on. So there's flexibility there. The only thing that I would mention with that, and because we just talked about withdrawals, is if you're going to be reimbursing yourself from your 529, make sure it's in the same year you incur that expense. So don't wait until junior year and say, oh, freshman year, I paid for this out of pocket, I'm going to take that out of my 529. You're going to want to do that in the same calendar year. But you can continue to get the tax benefits, the potential growth, and be saving, while they're in school.
Yeah.
So like I said, no bad time to start.
Absolutely. We have another question. Can we use 529 money for a CNA? I believe that's Certified Nurses Assistant program. It's I don't know that it's a degree program, but it's a certificate program. Do you know the answer to that, Donna?
The first thing that pops into mind when I hear that, it's a gray area, and I'm going to defer to tax professionals on this, but keep in mind that in addition to the being qualified expenses, you need to be enrolled in a qualified institution as well. And that's where I'm not quite sure if that meets that criteria. Cool. We do have on our website, under our FAQs, there's a section, so both what are considered qualified expenses, so I recommend checking that out. But there's also what is a qualified institution. And the great thing about that is we link to the Department of Education site. So for anyone that's filled out a FAFSA, you're probably familiar with this search function where you look for a search code so your information is sent to that particular school. Same thing applies. So that's where I would recommend taking a look more at, am I enrolled in an institution? Is that institution qualified? And then what the expenses are. Again, not here to give you tax advice, but that's what I would dig into and reach out to a tax professional. I also recommend to people a lot of times check with the financial aid office if it's a particular school, if you have questions on how things are reported for cost of attendance, for example.
Yeah, financial aid people know all the tricks. So get a hold of the institution and ask your questions for sure. We have another question. So should I have a 529 plan for each child, or is it better to do one combined plan for all my kids?
So really, it's a personal choice. Because you have the flexibility of changing the beneficiary to another member of the family. If you have one child that you want to start saving for, knowing that in the future, you could either transfer funds or separate the account between the beneficiaries. So for example, let's say you open one account now and then you end up with both kids in school at the same time. Well, you can only take qualified distributions for the named beneficiary, but maybe you now open a second account for your younger child, knowing you can transfer funds between them. Now, for some people, that's what they want to do. They want to have one account. Then there's other folks that say, you know what, I want to keep them separate. I want to have separate accounts, one for each of my children. I can choose separate investment options. I have separate tracking. I know what's going where. The nice thing about that is there are no account fees as far as per account. So you're not going to be charged if you have multiple accounts. And also, if you have online access, you can view all your accounts as an account owner under that single login. So you can consolidate that, but it really comes down to a personal choice.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we have one last question that came in. And I think you might have touched on this earlier, Donna, but it doesn't hurt to repeat. How do I let relatives know how to contribute to my kid's 529 plan? Is there a link or something like that they send out? What's your advice there?
Yeah. So if you're wanting to send something electronically, that's where I would recommend the Gift Ed program. That allows you to go into your account and you can send an email directly to folks that provides them a link. Now, if you're like, my parents who said, I want to contribute, but I'm going to send a check and then I want a gift card because I want the kiddos to know what I'm doing. There's that flexibility too. So if you have people that want to send in contributions, that's an option. We do have gift cards that can be sent. So if someone wants to announce to the beneficiary a contribution has been made for you, there's that, I'll call it the low tech option as well.
Love that. Thank you to our audience for the great questions. If we didn't have time to get to yours tonight, don't worry, call our office tomorrow. We'll be happy to help you put you in the right direction for anything that you need. But I also want to remind our audience that the best way to stay up to date on everything college related is to follow Education Quest on social media. We're on all the things: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything. And just by following us or liking us, you'll often have a chance to win a $500 Get Social scholarship. And all you have to do is like and subscribe. So easy way to make some money. Also, sign up for our Countdown to College newsletter. It's a monthly e-newsletter that keeps you up to date on all the important deadlines. And we give you a lot of advice on things that are related to college planning. So I'll put a link to the Countdown to College sign up in the comments. And be sure we're here to help. We have offices in Lincoln, Omaha, Kearney, and we have an Education Quest member in Scottsbluff. And so call us for free help or with any questions you might have. All of our location and phone number information is at educationquest.org. And that's it. Thanks everyone again for joining us. Donna, thank you so much for all of your insight into the 529 plans and saving for college. And we invite everybody to come and be with us again on June 21st, when we're going to talk about everything you need to know about student loans. So we'll see everybody then.